Hello, hello. Welcome to our next webinar. This one is going to be quite special. So the first one we did today was about buyers. This one that we're about to do is not about buyers, but it's going to be sellers. So give it a few minutes here, let people be able to jump on in. But yeah, so if you're out there looking to sell your home, anything like that, this is going to be vastly different than what we went through earlier today, as we are going to be solely focused on what it takes to sell your home, which is different than the information you need to know to buy your home. However, if you haven't seen the buyer one, I definitely would recommend checking out the recording of it later on. It will be recorded and posted on my YouTube channel. And when it gets put up there, you're going to be able to see it. So, but without further ado, let me pull up the PowerPoint and let me go ahead and get us started. All right. Welcome, everyone, to Listing to Closing, Mastering the Home Selling Process. So I will be your host on this journey today. My name is Tim Veigle with Watson Realty, and we will be going through what it takes to actually list your home and sell it. There's a lot of things that go into it, and it's definitely a different approach. I know from experience of dealing with buyers and sellers that it is vastly, vastly different. And that's going to be the same here. So, but let's go ahead and get started. So my name is Tim Veigle. Just a little bit about me. I grew up in the Casselberry area. I attended Sterling Park. I attended Tuscaloosa Middle School, and I attended Lake Howell High School. I worked as a bagger cashier at Gooding's Supermarket. For those of you that missed Gooding's, I do too. For those of you that don't know anything about Gooding's, it was located where the Bears Furniture Store is currently. I graduated from UCF with a degree in marketing, which really suits me to be a good listing agent because I don't put things on the market. I market them so that you could hopefully get the best possible offer available. While in school, I was a member of Alpha Kappa Psi Professional Business Fraternity, and then I worked at AT&T after going through school as a call center manager, and later I was an assistant manager at one of their stores over there in Waterford Lakes. Um, I started with Watson Real Estate in 2014, so quite some time ago, and that's pretty much kind of like my backstory. Now, one thing I am good at too is local involvement. So I am currently a member of the Casselberry Chamber of Commerce. Past president during the pandemic. I'm on the board right now. I work with membership, trying to increase the membership in it. I also ran for office, Orange County Soil and Water back in 2020, got over 100,000 votes. And then Casselberry Commissioner in 2024, where I received 1,007 votes. Just shy of winning. I was about 32, 33% with 3 people. So I served on Casselberry Firefighter and Police Pension Board. I'm currently serving on Casselberry Planning and Zoning Board. Serves Business Advisory Board for the Seminole County Public Schools. And I recently participated in the Living on Your Own program at Indian Trails Middle School and South Seminole Academy. So, but that is pretty much it in a nutshell. Now, whenever you're looking to sell your home, it's important to select the right realtor. Now, granted, I'm going to tell you a lot of stuff on here to where you don't need a realtor and you can do for sale by owner if you wanted to. And that's completely fine. That's your prerogative. But most for sale by owners eventually list with a realtor. In this challenging market that we're currently in, it's very important probably to use a realtor because they understand what's going on and what they see. Another big thing to think of if you were to go for sale by owner is if you were a doctor, would you operate on yourself? Probably not. You also don't sell a home every day of the week. So you don't know what to expect. You don't know how to protect yourself. And more importantly, you don't see what's happening to where you can position yourself for success. And that's what the realtor is going to do. You know, a realtor is not about what some people like to call the 3 Ps of selling a home. Yeah. Place in the MLS, you put a sign in the yard, and then you pray. That's not a plan to sell. So, but back to selecting a realtor. So it's important that if you're going to select a realtor, you need to make sure you interview the agent. Okay. Review their client reviews that they might have online. Research their production. A big thing I always like to say, go to homes.com. You can kind of see their last 5, 3, and 1 year trends. And that's going to help you understand what they do with their production. One thing to remember is the average realtor sells about 4 to 5 homes a year. So you want someone that can produce. Look at some of their past home sales too. You'll see what type of marketing to expect. And of course, when interviewing agents, sit down with them, figure out what their plan is. You know, how do they market your home? What's their thought process? Ask them the difficult questions. You know, you want to know these answers. And if they can't answer it for you in a nice, comfortable setting that they plan for, how are they going to do it when someone out of the ordinary calls? Okay. While also interviewing, focus on your goals. This isn't necessarily about the realtor. It's about what's your objective, okay? So if you have goals for selling your home, why do you do it? And does this realtor fit into that plan? Kind of like a puzzle piece, okay? So, you know, are you more concerned about bottom line? How are you going to get to bottom line? How is your realtor you're selecting going to get you to that bottom line? What about the time frame? Okay. You might have to be into a place in the next month, 2 months. How are you going to achieve that? And then, of course, upselling or downselling or downsizing. You know, that's very important too. So that the realtor understands what they're trying to fit you into. Um, as a realtor, we get into situations that we might not have ever done before. You know, do you want a realtor that's risk averse and is willing to take on a challenge that they've never done? Or someone that's kind of cautionary, but so cautious to where the deal might not work out because they're holding you back? All these are very important things to think of when interviewing a realtor to find the right one. Okay. Now, because I have a marketing background, I do look at selling a home a little differently. But at the end of the day, still the same thing. When going through marketing, one of the biggest foundations or basics of it is called the 4 Ps of marketing. This is basically how you market stuff. So you have first off the product. So this is how your home feels, looks, when a potential buyer enters it. So it's the prep work. You know, your home is your product. You can't just go out there. And I mean, go online, look, and you see some people where you can tell the homes that are prepared. You see some people where the homes are just put together and it's there. The ones that are just there, you're going to struggle to get what you want when you're asking. You're going to have to definitely do a haircut on the price. The next P of marketing is price. So, are you properly priced or are you paying for a high price? If you price it too high, you'll end up getting less than what you would have. If you price it just right, you'll probably be fine. And the market's a little softening, so you might have to go a little lower. And then if you price it too low, hopefully you get the offers to drive the price back up. Okay, but the thing is, you want to make sure you don't price yourself out of the market. You are completely in control of price. Now, place. Where is the home located? So this is something you really can't control when you're selling the home too much, but you can't control it when you buy the home. And when it comes to real estate, location is still everything. Okay, but now when you're marketing the home and selling the home, there might be some things that you can do to impact that. And then of course, promotion. What special items are you offering? What's a promotion? You know, things that drive you to the store that you might see, buy one, get one free, especially if it's eggs nowadays. So, but these are all some of the important things to think of. Now, let's talk about the strategies of selling. I've broken up the strategies of selling your home into three things. And these are the important components when listing your home and hoping to get an offer that's acceptable to you so you get to the closing table. Okay, first up is pricing strategy. Second one is the marketing strategy. The third one is exposure strategy. Now, you see, a lot of people are like, well, the realtor is what sells the home. No, the home sells the home. The realtor helps highlight the home so that it gets exposure. The more exposure we can get on your home, the more likelihood that we're going to sell your home. Okay. When we sell a home, like there's only one home to sell. So we can have millions of people look at the home, still only one contract you're going to accept and one contract that's going to close. But if we don't get enough people looking at the home, you'll never get that one contract. So let's talk about pricing strategy. And just looking at this, and when it comes down to the 4 Ps, this will fall under the price component of the 4 Ps of marketing. So looking at a neighborhood locally, this neighborhood currently has 7 active homes. The ranges of those homes are from 356,000 to 448,000. So a pretty good range. Average days on market is about 43 days. So you can expect your home to sell probably about 43, 45 days. Now, looking at the last 6 months, 3 homes have sold. One for 330, which is livable. One for 350, which is also livable. And then one for 415, which is fully renovated, all the bells and whistles. Okay. So brings you to some questions to ask yourself when listing your home. Do you want to sell your home or your neighbors? And that's very huge to think about. Okay. Because if your home is the exact same as your neighbor's home and they're both on the market, and your neighbor say is listed at 330 and you're listed at 350, but they're identical, spitting images, same layouts, same upgrades or non-upgrades, roof's roughly the same, like all the components are there about the same. You as a buyer, are you going to buy the 350 and try to negotiate them down? Or are you going to go 330? So, and that's one thing to think of when you're pricing your home. What's the competition doing? How do you compare? Because that's going to tell you which direction you need to go in. And kind of takes care of question 2. How do you compare with the competition? You got to look at the actives that are on the market because they're going to compete. The more actives in the neighborhood, the more difficult it could be to sell. Now, I had a home earlier this year that I listed in the neighborhood. It had 9 active homes, very active, and none of them were going under contract. We had one with the exact same floor plan as us, but with some upgrades, and it was going under contract $30,000 less than what we were. Okay. Did we have value? Yes. That one though was trying to do a fire sale. They're trying to get it sold ASAP. We struggled to get offers. Once that one went under contract, within a week we went under contract, and we ended up actually selling more than that one. So sometimes you got to figure out, is it better to be patient? But you have to pay attention to the market when it comes to pricing. So another thing to think of is what options are available to make your home stand out. A good example is I was in a neighborhood once listing a home, and all the homes were active. The ones that were active were all upgraded. They were pretty considerably the same as the one I had. But the one difference is mine had a pool, the others did not. So therefore mine was a little bit higher, but also mine was a pool, because if you had 10 people looking in that area and it's the only pool home, I stand out. I have a feature that the other homes don't have. So you got to look for what I like to call a unicorn feature. These unicorn features are what makes you stand out from the competition. Everyone wants them, but not everyone needs them. So next up is the marketing strategy. This one's really going to take into account your place and your product when it comes to the 4 Ps. Okay. And the first one, this is the biggest thing that I can recommend. And I see too much of it where people just do like cell phone photos, but it's important to do professional photography. The photos, they're going to make sure it's light. They're going to make sure they take the right angles. They're going to make the rooms look bigger than they probably are. They're going to take it into a place where you can see the entire room. Okay. The best money I've ever spent was on professional photography. So, the rooms will look light. The rooms will look great. If you're thinking of selling or if you were even thinking of buying, I am sure you have looked online at the Zillows of the world and have determined what is out there photo wise. Well, when you do that, I'm sure some photos you're like, for real, why is the room so dark? Why is there so few photos? You know, it's not giving you a full picture. So you as a consumer, when you should be looking online and falling in love with photos, you're kind of already discrediting the property without even taking a step into it. And the problem is, as a buyer, if you go into it, you might actually have a second thought, but that's not going to happen. You're never even going to make it to the door because you don't want to waste your time. So professional photos, huge and should be done. And I mean, I've seen somewhere like you catch whoever's taking the photos in the mirror. I've even seen some where they took a front picture of the front house, and guess what? They're in the car and they catch a picture of their face through the side view mirror. So another one, not everyone uses this one, but I think it's a big one, is drone photos. So you're doing photos. If your photographer could do it, you should do some drone shots, get some nice aerials. You'll be able to see what's around. Sometimes that's super cool when you got a clear day and you can get downtown Orlando. Might get some lakes. It really gives an outline of surroundings of the home. So when those that are looking at your home, they get to see what it's like, where it's located, what's around the area. Okay. Again, remember, place and product. You got to get the product ready, which is part of the reason of professional photography. But the drone also helps show the place, shows the area, what's around. You know, it's going to help highlight the property so that you can stand out. Another thing I like to do is I like to do virtual twilights. I just think it's a shot that looks pretty sharp when people are looking at it online. And you know, if it causes someone to stop for a minute to go look, that's good. Okay. Another thing that I've been doing on a lot of my listings is I do what's called a 3D Matterport photo. So the 3D photo I think is huge. It allows people, especially the out of town buyers, to tour the home while they're in the area or while they're out of town. You know, press the dots, go room to room. Another thing that 3D Matterport does, it helps gives extra graphics to your property when it's listed online, so therefore it's a more viewable home. I also love the floor plans that I can get through my Matterport. So when you do Matterport, it actually will create little floor plans for the property, and what the floor plans will do now is you get to see what the floor plan is of the home. So you get to see the room dimension, so you know what you're doing before you get there. It has twofold. One, it might cut down on some of the traffic of going to the home, but the ones that go to the home are more ready and able buyers that are, this is what they're looking for, this is what they want, and that's what we do. Next thing is property description. You know, with my property description, and you know, AI has made it really good, but you know, I write good property description, good copy, try to make sure I use the popular Google keywords so it's searchable online. Try to also make sure it's very descriptive and really appeals to the emotions of the buyer, because if a buyer becomes emotionally invested in the property, they're going to do what they can to secure this property for them. Another thing is the videos. So you're going to do a video of the home. Sometimes I'll do the video where I post online. Sometimes I just do a Facebook Live video and walk through. All are fine to do. Another thing that I like to do too, and this is where it is, like I talked about how you really can't decide the place when it comes to marketing except when you're buying. Well, and it always amazes me, but when you're buying in a place or listing in a place, you're stuck with the place, but you can still highlight the features of it. For example, the community neighborhood highlights. I always try to see what amenities are in the neighborhood, have my photographer take some photos of that, try to highlight them, try to understand everything that's going on so that you can sell the wow factor. The home is where you live, the community is where you play. So what is nearby that you play? One that I love to talk about is the different parks in the local municipalities, especially like in Casselberry, who just opened Wills Park East, has an aquatic center opening up really soon. All these things are great features that add some value to the neighbors. So I definitely put that out in the fact that they do festivals monthly at their Lake Concord Park. And, some of the same things will happen, different little events in Oviedo or Longwood and Orlando, highlighting what the community is all about. That's big. So some more of the marketing strategy. And these are some of the things that when I list a home, I always do. It's all about decluttering the home. You want the home to be move-in ready. Think of like a show home when you go to new construction. Staging the home, I think, is very important. Just maneuvering certain things, taking things out. When you're getting the home ready to list, you want to do everything you can to make the home basically be move-in ready. It's almost a mandate that it has to be done like that. Do any necessary repairs. So if there's any repairs that you need to do, you should really do it. Okay. I think that's a huge thing to do. Get it out of the way before you list. Because once you list, if it comes up, it can cause you more headaches, and it's better to be proactive than reactive. And then, of course, the last thing is paint, landscape, or carpet cleaning. Whatever you need to do, you should definitely do. To just spruce it up, make the home look fresh. That small smell, that clean smell of the home. So, which is all about setting that right tone when you walk in the door. So now exposure, this is important. And this is just an example of some of the data from my listings through homes.com. On this one particular listing, you can tell like through homes.com, it's gotten over 48,000 views. My targeted ads for my listing, we do what's called targeted. So someone that looks at a page, it'll then start retargeting them and following them through cookies across the website. That's a retargeted ad view. So that's 8,000 reviews. One person favorite, 81 detailed page views where it actually looked at the details on there. And you can kind of see how it goes. But exposure is important. And this is kind of like the promotions, bringing someone in. Some people look at promotions, this is the way you give things away. You don't always have to give things away. It's all about bringing people in, what's bringing the traffic. That's promotion. So just listed cards, doing open houses. There's many people that listing agents that'll tell you that open houses will not sell your home. And I couldn't agree more. You're not going to find the buyer of your open house. But what an open house will do is it opens up the ability for buyers to shop houses when they're in the area. There's some buyers out there that they don't like to go looking at houses with their realtor. So they will literally pop in to open houses to check it out. Doing open houses also changes the way that the online looks at it because you're making a change to the online profile of your listing. So when you do the open house, it freshens it so it keeps popping up and top to the top. So doing open house is important. I mean, so far this year, and I think we're only in early May, I've probably done over 20 open houses thus far, and I'll do more before the year's out. But open houses is a huge thing. Online marketing. Again, the homes.com kind of shows some of my online marketing, posting stuff on social media. This is all about driving stuff to your home. And then print media still works. Um, just listed cards. Yeah, I definitely send just listed cards. Lets the neighbors know that the home's on the market. You don't want to be a secret agent hiding the home. You want the home to be out there like, hey, this is my launch party. Look at me shine. Okay. Probably the biggest thing to do for your listing is to have a strategy and attack it from day one. Be aggressive, be all over about it. It'll be like, I am open. Come hear me roar. Okay. Um, so now you're listed. There's some important things to think of once you're officially listed, now that you have your marketing plan under control. So first off, you want to be as available as possible for showings. If you're living in the home, it's going to be an inconvenience. But at the same point, you got skin in the game. You want to get the home sold. So therefore, you need to be available on short notice. We can ask for a 24-hour notice, being that you are living there. But I'll be honest, buyers see it. Buyers want to go in there and see it. They'll reach out to you and literally give you an hour's notice sometimes. And it is what it is, but you need to be show ready 24/7. Yeah, so going back to being show ready, keep the house in pristine condition. And while you're there getting ready, you got to have that home ready to be shown at its drop of the notice. Now, typically you will have a lockbox on the door. It'll be one of two things. It'll either be a combo lockbox or it'll be a Sentry lockbox / electronic lockbox. Personally, I do the Sentry lockbox. Only realtors can access that. If I have a combo, I can give it to you and schedule a combo for a time frame in case you get locked out or you need access to it. But I try to keep it so that you can go in there, in and out when you want. And it protects you from strangers showing up. Combo lockbox, that's a code that a realtor can give out. They shouldn't give out, they're asked not to give it out, but so many realtors out there, who knows? And I just think the Sentry lockbox, electronic lockbox, provides security to you, and it also has a time code, so I can prevent people from showing up at all hours in case somebody accidentally shows up. Okay, so good news. We are under contract. So we're getting a contract. So there's a few items to keep in mind from a seller standpoint. Obviously, the sales price is the most important thing. So you'll see the sales price, you'll either like it or you won't like it. As a realtor, I'll typically give you an idea of what your net sheet could look at based off that price. Escrow lets you know kind of like how much skin in the game they're putting. Contingencies are important because contingencies are their way of backing out and getting their escrow back. So we want to make sure we satisfy those contingencies. Another thing that's important on the contract for you is what is included in the sale. Normal stuff that's included is like the appliances. Every once in a while, like I just had one recently where they wanted the bar stools. But these are things you need to know because once you sign that contract, it's a contract between seller, buyer. So when you get to closing, if you don't leave what they asked for, you can end up having some issues. Cash towards closing. So are they putting 5% down? Are they putting 20% down? That's extremely important because if it is a appraisal issue and they're putting very little bit of money down, guess what's going to happen? They might not have the cash to cover the difference or even a portion of the difference. So you might be having to go all the way down to the appraised price if you want this deal to happen. So it's kind of like just foreshadowing. You need to know, is the deal a cash deal or a financing deal? So it's going to let you know some of the challenges that could be coming your way. And of course, most importantly, when is the closing date? So you know when to get out of the home. Okay, so you're under contract. Inspection period. So when they do the inspection period, they're going to do everything they need to review. They'll have their inspection. I try to attend most inspections. At the inspection, and you can never know what's going to come up. There's certain things they'll ask for. I will tell you, in my honest opinion, if it's something you should worry about or not. Things that I would always worry about is if there's an electrical issue with, say, for example, if you have Federal Pacific um, electric box, if the roof is 20 years old, yeah, that's probably going to be a problem. If you have polybutylene piping, that'll probably be a problem. Um, a lot of these things I will know before we list, so we will look to how we can proactively address them beforehand. But if they come up on the inspection, I'll tell you, be like, this is an issue, whether it's them or someone else, we got to address. Now, they can ask for some silly stuff too. Buyers ask. And you got to decide if you want to do some of those silly stuff. And some of them we give pushback in hopes of getting it taken care of. Some of the silly stuff I've heard of, clean the leaves out of the gutter. That's home ownership. That's just maintenance of a property. Not a big deal. But that's what they want. And sometimes you got to decide, do you push back on it or not? Um, and, you know, some of the stuff that they ask for, it might not be worth it. It might be best to walk away. Other things they ask for, not a big deal. Let's go with it. So, but these are all important things to think of. Appraisal. Appraisal is a big thing. So with the appraisal, the lender is going to hire someone to come out and do an appraiser. They're going to look at it, and let's just say you're under contract at 500. The appraisal comes back at 475. Seller and buyer will figure out where they're going to go with that $25,000 difference. They're either going to reduce the price by 25, they'll bring the price cash of 25 extra, or you guys are going to find a happy medium somewhere. Now, if the appraisal comes back at 525, the buyer's probably not going to tell us that they got an extra $25,000. It can cause issues from a seller standpoint because the seller's going to be like, I want my $25,000 equity. Well, you're under contract at 500, that's what it is. So that's not going to change like that, and we'll probably never know that price. Estoppel. So what the estoppel is, if you're living in an HOA, you'll be charged what's called an estoppel fee. That's basically the HOA's ability to review and discuss, is there any penalties on this property? Are there any late fees? Are they up to date on their dues? Everything like that. Estoppel fees are typically about $250. And that's usually paid either at closing, or sometimes they do require you to prepay them. That is a seller's expense. It's the way that you prove that there is clear title to the buyers. So, all right, we gone through everything. Title's got you cleared. You're good to go on selling your property. So now it's closing time. So at closing time, you got your date of when you're supposed to close. You need to really make sure to be completely cleared out so the buyers do their final walkthrough. They should do their final walkthrough with an empty house. Okay. Leave utilities on the day of closing or the day after. You know, that's something you can work out, but should at least be left on through closing. And sometimes at the municipalities, and based on timing, like if you're closing on a Friday, a lot of sellers might give till Monday to allow the buyer to be able to get their own services set up if they have issues. So now, congrats, you just sold your home. Let's talk about some of our sponsors for the week. So we had Performance Roofing. If you do have any roof issues with your home, I'd definitely get them to check it out. I have them come out and look at listings of mine before we list when we're curious the condition of the roof all the time. And sometimes they'll do the work before we close. Sometimes they'll do it once we get a contract. Sometimes we'll pay them out of closing. Sometimes we'll pay them before we close. We find ways to work with each other. COE home inspection. They're good for inspections. Buyers use them on inspections. I've actually had them come out for sellers to do pre-inspection sometimes. But if you do a pre-inspection, what they say, you're going to kind of have to disclose if there's anything major on there. Property management. If you were renting out your property, they are good. Watson Property Management. These are their Bitly codes too. So it takes you to their website for you to be able to, schedule service advice from them. Mystic Air and Heat. This is good for an AC. They come out and service your AC. They can repair your AC. They can replace your AC. They're not going to try to upsell you. They're going to try to give you the information you need to know so you can make an informed decision. As a seller, hopefully your home is insured. If it's not, We Insure is a good company to go to set up your homeowner's insurance. And then, of course, if you're getting a loan, granted, you're selling your home, so you're not. But if you're buying the next one, Additions can help you navigate this loan to be able to get the next loan. So, and more importantly, if you want to connect with me, please feel free to do so. Would love to hear from you. I'd love to help you with your home process. There's a lot of parts that we juggle, and I would like to be part of that juggling. So, other than that, I hope you all enjoyed today's seller webinar. That was very marketed heavy. And not all shoes fit. So it's important to have a sit down strategic conversation with a realtor to figure out what's going to work for you based off your needs and what you're looking to do. Hope this helps. I'll talk to y'all later.